season for Brawl Stars is finally here, and I could not be more excited. This year has been so exciting to cast every single month. I've had the privilege of being able to cast every region at least once, and also, of course, I've been doing a lot of what you guys have been doing at home and watching every single major event. Can't get enough of my Brawl Stars esports. I'm going to be honest with you, I think LCQ is going to be a toughie to predict. We've done these videos before where I predicted 2021 World Finals, 2022 World Finals. Last year, I think we missed one match. I don't expect to be quite as successful for LCQ. I think it's going to be a little tougher. I don't feel nearly as confident, but we're going to be doing our best to try and get a perfect bracket and prediction for these group stages here. A lot of unknowns, a lot of question marks, which is super exciting. We're going to be breaking it all down here in this video. If you want more than just my predictions in this video, be sure to watch the podcast I recently started where he had Drage immediately after the names were drawn out of the fishbowl. He gave his predictions, so there's a world finalist giving his. Of course, we had some recent talk with Bobby in our latest episode about some of the other groups as well. It's all very good stuff. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, kicking it off with Group A. This is one of the more exciting ones in my mind. I think we got several teams that could possibly take this. We're going to do our best to navigate it here. Starting off, it's going to be SK Gaming taking on CMGEA. I think CMGEA are a little safer here. SK have been a more volatile team, just like a lot of Europe as well. It's a very competitive region, but I think the same goes for East Asia too. I think CMGEA have played a much better second half of the year compared to what we saw from them in the first. They've got players that have made it to World Finals before, and that is something worth mentioning as well. I think East Asia, a tougher region to come out of, and the fact that these guys clutched up and did that, I'm going to give them credit for this. I'm going to go with CMGEA here. Match number 2, Raconic SA versus Team Flash. I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm going to go with Team Flash. I think they're the safer choice. Again, best 2 of 3. You never know what's going to happen, but I think Team Flash have the capabilities to win this one. CMGEA would be taking on Team Flash. I'm going to go with the safer pick. I think it's going to be CMGEA here, and on to SK versus Raconic SA. Again, not going to overthink this one. I'm going to go with SK. They've been here before. They've got more experience. I'm going to go with those guys. Team Flash versus SK would be our decider match in this region, and if this comes down to it, I think it's going to be a tough one for people to call. This is one of the ones I struggled with a little more. I'm going to go with my gut call, what I said immediately after pulling names out of a fishbowl. I'm going to go with Team Flash by a little bit here. It's a best 2 of 3. Make your call. Go with your gut. I'm going to go with what I've seen out of these players in past tournaments internationally. Before Masters, we had Season 2 of APAC. These guys, the majority of the players played together. They did really, really well. They took on a team like Crazy Raccoon. They took on a Choppy's team and some of these guys from CMGEA and beat them multiple times. And I think what I saw from them there, while it was a while ago this year, I think it was enough for me to believe in them, see the ceiling. Now they've got some more time with each other. I'm hoping they show up this week, pop off in some scrims, get that experience, and get their ceiling outcomes. SK Gaming, though, obviously a great ESL Season 3. Masters, they showed up there too. So this is a team that is notable as well. I think they could definitely do it, but I'm going to go with the ceiling outcome of Team Flash and give them a narrow win here. So CMGEA, Team Flash, those are my 1 and 2. For the spiciest group, in personal opinion, when I was drawing names out of the fishbowl, it was hard to keep a straight face, man. I mean, this group is some unbelievable talent. It is so good. We've got CMGNA taking on VN Esporting, and then STMN versus Clash to kick off this group stage. I'm going to lean towards CMGNA here. VN Esporting, previously known as A&R, has had some great results recently. 6-1 in the regular season of ESL. They took it to LAN, got 4th place out of 4 there. However, it wasn't with their full roster, and they still put on a pretty good show. They had a great match, 3-2 against Zeta in that loss. I think, honestly, these guys could show up and perform really well, but I think CMGNA have a little bit of a higher ceiling for me. I've been really impressed with what they've done online. They've got RBM, who's had some experience at LAN in the past, Juan Carlos as well. I think there's a good chance for CMGNA to come out on top in this best 2 of 3. STMN versus Clash, I would make the argument STMN might be the best team at this event. I think they might be one of the top 5 best teams in the world, to keep it a buck with you. I think STMN bring it at LAN, especially on a day 1 like Masters. They were so prepared. They came out swinging. The drafts were perfect. After talking with Bobby on the podcast too, I really believe in this team. I think they get the dub. They've taken on some LATAM before as well. Last year they played their edition of Clash. They had at the World Finals and did really well. I believe it was a 3-0. Give me STMN here. I think they're the most likely to come out of this group. And of course, if CMGNA and STMN play against each other, I'm going to side with STMN as well. They've been scrim partners. They're good buddies. It's going to be a very good match to watch. If it happens, I'm going to bet on it happening, and I'm going to go with STMN there. On the other end, VN Esporting and Clash for their tournament lives, I will go with Clash. I think they've got a little more experience in the LAN environment. They've been taking on a tough team in Nouns all throughout the year. Haven't gotten the best of them, but they've had some good showing, and they played their best month, arguably, this last month. peaking at a perfect time. I will go with Clash here, which means it's going to come down to CMG NA versus Clash. I'm going to lean with CMG NA. This region or this group is going to be the Wild West, though. Call your shot. I'm going to lean with North America here. I've been really impressed with North America as a region. I think CMG NA have really come into their peak performances more recently. I think the ceiling is still yet to be determined for these guys. They've had great success against Tribe Gaming. They've been prepared and scrimming all year long against teams like Tribe, STMN, Luminosity. I mean, some awesome stuff. So I think these guys are going to be ready to go when the time comes. Pick your shot, though. I think this group is going to be absolutely insane to call. Very difficult to get perfect. Best of luck out there. That's what I'm going with Group B. With Group C, we've got 4 new teams here in Revenant Esports, Rising Sun SCA, Humble, and Team Dados. And Revenant versus Rising Sun SCA, I'm going to go with Revenant here. The 1 seed from India, I think, is going to take the W here. They've gotten even more LAN experience as well with things like Masters. They didn't boot camp, and I thought they still put up a pretty good showing, to be honest with you. I was impressed with the matches they have. On paper, 3-0, 3-1, but I do think there's room for them to grow, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for sure. So I'm going to go with Revenant here. Humble versus Team Dados. I'm going to go with Humble. I think it's the safer choice. I know they're not a top seed in their region, but Europe makes them battle-tested. They've played against some of the fiercest competition. They've scrimmed against them. They've practiced against them. I think that's just a benefit they're going to have, and also the tournament is going to be in Europe as well. No adjustments there. They don't have to boot camp. They just get ready to go. I'm going to give Humble the benefit of the doubt, and so when it comes to Revenant versus Humble, I think it's a tough call. I think Revenant can certainly win this one in the best 2 out of 3. I'm going to go with Humble, just making 6 out of 6 monthly finals in Europe. I think that's a tough thing to do. Obviously, name changes throughout the year in there as well. I'm going to give Humble a little bit of an edge here. It is going to be close, though. I think Revenant could certainly win it. Those are the 2 teams I definitely have coming out of this one. So when it comes to Rising Sun SCA versus Team Dados, I'm going to lean towards Team Dados, and then loser of that match, I think Team Dados is going to lose to either way. So I'm going to go with Humble as the 1, Revenant as the 2 in this group. On to our final group, and I think there's going to be a couple names that stand out for me here too. It's going to be Navi versus SKC and Reject versus Marcos. Navi over SKC for me, Reject over Marcos for me. I'm not going to overthink those too much. Bigger names, more experience. We've seen higher ceilings from these guys, so I'm going to go with those immediately. I'll take Reject over Navi. I think Navi have the upset capability for sure, but Reject I think are the safer team. They've got a Choppy who's won 2 world championships in a row. I think Reject has played phenomenally against teams like Crazy Raccoon all year long. LAN experience as well. We'll see what the other 2 players from that team can bring, but I think Reject are going to be the safer one on paper here. I'll go SKC over Marcos. I think they've been a little more consistent this year, even though Marcos did make ESL Masters and BSC. SKC I think have been a little bit better, at least on paper. I'll go Navi over SKC, of course, too, in that decider match. So give me Reject at the 1, Navi at the 2. All right, now that we predicted day number 1 and all the group stages, we're going to give it our best go in day number 2. So assuming in our hypothetical scenario that all of our day 1 are correct, which is unlikely, but hopefully we nail it. Day 2, here's what we would have. It's going to be a best 3 out of 5 and 4 golden ticket matches. So all of the groups are randomly assigned one another, 1 seeds versus 2 seeds. Here's how it would lay out in my hypothetical scenario. It would be CMG EA versus Revenant Esports, STMN versus Navi, Humble versus Team Flash, and Reject versus CMGNA. For our first golden ticket match, it would be the number 1 team from Group A versus the number 2 from Group C. I think CMG EA are the safer choice. That's where I would put my bet if these 2 ended up facing off. For context as well, if it had ended up being Humble, I think that Humble versus Revenant Esports match feels like a little bit of a coin flip for me. I think Revenant Esports don't get enough credit. I don't think they'll get enough on the channel point predictions, but I do think CMG EA are safer. They've made World Finals past. I think their ceiling's a little bit higher. I think the median outcome a little bit better from a more competitive region. Go with that, but if you're a fan of India, one of my favorite regions to watch, go with Revenant Esports. Why the heck not? STMN versus Navi would be match number 2. I think STMN are arguably the best team at this tournament. I think I would have a hard time betting against them no matter who they played, including a really good team like Reject, that if they somehow lost to somebody like Navi and got the 2nd seed instead, I think they'll be okay. It would be tough, but in the best 3 of 5, the preparation that they put in, the ceiling outcomes that they've had this year. I mean, I saw them in San Diego, 2 straight matches just beat Tribe Gaming, which I consider to be one of the best in the world. They beat Crazy Raccoon 3-0 on day number 1 of Masters as well. If you give these guys time, preparation, allow them to scout the opponent and know who they could possibly be ahead of time, I think it's going to be pretty tough to take these guys down. So assuming all goes well, I think STMN is going to take down another huge fan base and awesome team in Navi. So number 3, I'm once again going to take a stance here. I'm going to go with Team Flash over Humble. I think if it was Team Flash versus Revenant Esports, I would go the same way again with that coin toss. I think that's just kind of where I land here. I think Humble, obviously being from EMEA, are going to surprise some people. I know they're not necessarily going to be one of the heavy favorites coming into this to win it all or anything, but obviously now knowing that Group A and Group C are going to be kind of the matchings and pairings that happen, I do think they have a pretty good chance in this. But Team Flash is a team that I'm going to believe that they can put together what I saw from them as the WWW rendition earlier in ESL, with some big matches, including a 3-2 loss versus Crazy Raccoon, some wins over a team called Help Me that at the time had a Choppy and some of the guys from CMG EA. So these guys have some players that obviously can do things, some success in World Finals and lands in the past. Look, Humble come from Europe, great region, great team. They might just be more battle tested and ready to go on game day in a best 3 of 5 where winner takes all, but I'm going to believe in the big outcome from Team Flash. I think they get it right. I think they get together despite being late in the year, and they figure things out and get closer to what we've seen from them in the past. So give me Team Flash here. For our final match, it's going to be Reject versus CMGNA. I think this would be a heck of a matchup. It would be a real test to see what CMGNA are capable of. I think the sky's the limit for them too. Like I said, in the online events through the BSC this year, they have been toe-to-toe with teams like Tribe Gaming, who I highly regard as one of the better teams in the world as well. I think CMGNA have a real chance in this, but Achapi is a 2-time-in-a-row world champion. East Asia is tough to beat. Reject has played against Crazy Raccoon very well this year, who I consider to be some of the most, if not the best 3 players in the world in mechanics. Hard to go against that. They've got a little more experience, at least with the Choppy. The other 2 guys, gonna have to see what they bring to the table. I think this one could be a volatile result. I think it's surprising people. As a North American fan, I would love to see CMGNA come out of this, but I'm gonna side with what I believe to be a little bit safer in Reject, but go with your gut. So my 4 teams coming out of this entire thing would be CMGEA, STMN, Team Flash, and Reject, if all goes well with my predictions. All right, if all goes well, hopefully I earned all of those exclusive rewards on event.brawlstars.com, and if I did, it's very likely that the 4 teams I had winning ended up doing well. The 4 teams I have are CMGEA, STMN, Team Flash, and Reject. Very tough calls. I don't feel nearly as confident I do nearly going perfect with World Finals 2022. This one's going to be tough, man. It's very similar to monthly qualifiers. We got some best 2 out of 3, some group stage, and even a day number 2 as well. But one thing I do know is this is going to be an incredible tournament to watch. And if you can't get enough Brawl Esports and you're so excited to get your hands on LCQ and can't wait, be sure to tune in to the podcast I recently started. We had Corey, Drage, and Bobby, some LCQ, some world finalists, all on there talking about the big tournament coming up. It's a really good time doing it with them, so I'd appreciate if you check that out as well. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It's absolutely free and goes a very long ways towards helping out the channel. That being said, enjoy LCQ. I know I will certainly be watching, and happy brawling.